Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pears on a Pod. Yes, it's been a while. Huddo's been away. He's been to different parts of South Australia, which is pretty much just Kangaroo Island. But essentially, it's a privilege to have a special guest today that is one of our personal favourites. To be honest, we're trying to get him on for a very long time. But first, I will introduce my co-host, Jack Hudson.
How you going, mate? Now it is good to be back. A bit of COVID, then fewer trips, and we're all over the shop. I think the last one might have been for the showdown that we might have had. So it's been a while.
Yeah,
Maybe if we
no.
lose this week, then we have to cut it all together because we're in a good
Yeah,
run at the moment.
I might have to pull the pin on it. We've had two episodes this year and we've both lost each time. So
Mm.
it's not a good start. But I will introduce our special guest. He is an inaugural player in the 1997 AFL side. He's a premiership player for the Magpies. He's got a son playing right now for Port Adelaide in Jackson. I speak of Darren Mead. Darren, welcome to the podcast.
Fellas, how are we going?
Very
Good to
well,
have you
mate.
on, mate.
Yeah, and
Obviously, the super coach out at St. Paul's is not doing too well.
for the
Well,
record, for the listeners,
Yeah.
Darren took Ant's mob for a few training sessions, and they're currently 0-2 at the moment. So a bit going on. But what was he like, Meady? What was he like to work with?
Which one? Pedo or Ant?
Yeah, I'll definitely go with Ant. What was it? What was he like to coach? Because
Oh,
coaching
look,
along
it's,
here is horrible.
yeah, no, Pedo and I go back a fair way. So I think it was back in 2007. I coached Gazer in Div 1 and we were looking for a reserves coach, and Pedo was along. Come out and he shared the same values as what I did as a coach, background and philosophy and that sort of stuff. And we were out there for 3 years. He might have stayed a bit longer, maybe another year after me. And then, so got him to know that way. And then we joined up for his only premiership he's ever coached in, and that was in 2010 at the Maggies in the reserves. And got his first, he got his tattoo of Port Adelaide on his leg.
Oh yes,
yes, and he's a
Crow
typical
supporter.
Adelaide Crows man, and I think he's a Bay supporter, to tell you the truth.
Whoa!
I think he is too, yeah.
So
It's polar opposites.
yeah, total, yeah. But Pito's been involved in footy a long time, and I think he said it's his first ever playing coaching grand final win. So hence the reason why might have had a few and got a little magpie tattoo on his ankle, I reckon.
Wow,
Yeah, it looks
premiership.
good. He literally struts around at training with it wide open too. Like, it's there to see.
Oh yeah,
He loves showcasing it.
yes, no doubt he would.
Yeah, but for
Oh,
those listening and watching, Meaty came out to one of our trainings, took it. It was very good. The boys were just in awe. And it's clearly worked because now Pito's 0-2.
Yeah,
So
great
happy
game plan.
days. Yeah, done well. Kick it to Ant, essentially, is what it becomes. But
Doesn't quite help you to say playing centre half back.
no, it doesn't. The shoulders are always sore.
Centre half back.
I'm sick of the switch kick.
that's a problematic tactic, isn't it? You kick back the centre half back. Gee whiz. But speaking of centre half backs, Meady, obviously you were one. Tell us how you got started. Playing down back.
Oh God, never really eventuated, to tell you the truth, until I actually played in the AFL. So all of my, I was actually when I first started at the Maggies in the reserves, I was at fullback, and that was centre half back. We had Teal Cup in 1987, 88, somewhere around there. No, 88 would have been. And I played centre half forward for the state, made All Australian that way. And funny enough, Wayne Carey was playing centre half back. So
wow.
Yeah. So interesting story. Duck used to play for North Adelaide in junior footy, and we come up against each other. And yeah, he was playing centre half forward then, and I was playing centre half back. And then we went to state footy, played for Victoria. And that was the year after. This was in this was under 15s, I reckon. And then, he went to Victoria, and he played centre half back, and I was playing centre half forward. So it really didn't eventuate until, as I said, when I first got into the power. But through all the Maggies, I was a Mr. Fix-It type of guy. I debuted in the state game in 1989, I reckon, when we got walloped over in the MCG. Victoria beat South Australia. We played North Adelaide. Stood Sean Tasker, so that was the fullback, and then just sort of, I think with the strength of the side that we had back then was, so many Hall of Famers, Greg Phillips, Roger Delaney, Northeast, Fiarchi, Foster, there was so many, Bruce Abernathy off the halfback line. It was very hard to break into, but I kept on, sort of filling in spots in the ruck and centre half back and centre half forward, and didn't really cement a spot until it was 1992. I played all year and then got dropped for the finals with the guys coming back from the Crows. 93, so 93 was 92, 93, 94. I sort of, filled in the ruck most of the time for the rest of my time at Port until the AFL. And that's when I've actually played centre half back in the first game in 1997. And that's where I was for the rest of my career, pretty well.
Bloody hell.
Once you get there,
at the age of 26, I actually found my true spot.
I'm 26. It's a coincidence. I think it's meant to be. Once you find yourself there, that's it. Like, you're stuck there. You can try anywhere else. That's it.
Yeah, I stayed there for a couple of years, and then I went up forward for a couple. I just said, we were having trouble kicking goals, and we had Cornsey and Treaders that were up there. I reckon Scotty Cummins had left at that stage. So I went up forward for a couple of weeks and kicked a couple against the Bulldogs and Brisbane, I reckon. And then that didn't last long, and back I went again. So back to centre back again. So, and then occasional, sort of runs in the ruck when Choco or Jack needed it. It was. But most of the time from the first game of AFL was centre half back.
Take us back, actually, 98, 99, drafted with Essendon, but didn't go over. Pick 107, I'm pretty sure it was. How was that?
So 1988, about 107. So back then, when you got drafted, you didn't have to go. Drafted as a 17-year-old, as I said, All-Australian. I went over in 1990, played a trial against St Kilda at Moorabbin, stayed over with Alan Schwartz, who was at that time, I think, was drafted from West Torrens. Stayed with him and, I can't think of the other guy. Shane Radbone. Stayed with those guys, and we played a trial against St Kilda out at Moorabbin and stood. I think Brian Wilson was one guy, and I got to think of the other guy. Can't think at the moment off the top of my head. Magnificent experience. Interesting to see another coach of Kevin Sheedy's amazing amount of detail and instruction you had on the board before the game. There's so many things you sort of go through your career, but the amount of detail he had on the board, and just in a trial game, was unbelievable. And so, it took just small bits out of that of what we learned when I just tried to apply it to my own coaching and my own game at that time as well. Played a trial over there and come back and got cut. And so basically, he gave me a rating because we actually played Essendon in a trial at Footy Park, I reckon, the year after. Or it might be 2 years after, and we sort of, caught up after the game. He gave me a rating on the game. It was quite, Kevin Sheedy's really different sort of a type of a coach, and the rating was like 7.8, not 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. 7.8, he come up with this rating, and I was like, that's it's quite interesting. But that's the type of guy he was. As I said, the the stuff he had on the board was just, if you could fill a whiteboard that was 20 foot long by 8 foot high, it was full of everything. So yeah, on all parts of the game, all parts of the ground. But it was really interesting to go over and see and be part of. As I said, got cut after that. Got picked up by Brisbane in 1993 under Wolsey. I had a contract written up to go over. But my number one priority at that stage was to play for Port Adelaide, and I would have felt cheated if I didn't actually play in a premiership somewhere along the line in my career. I think everybody wants to get that, and they want to play in a flag. I was lucky enough I saw it in 88, 89, 90 in the A grade. I played in the 88 reserves on that day as well against Woodville. But that 88, 89, 90, then 92, 92, then 94, 5 and 6 are the ones I was involved in. So I would have felt cheated as a grown up Port Adelaide diehard to play for the club I love and leave before I actually played in one. And I'll still say this to the day I die. I've played in 3 League Ones, played in the 88 reserves for the Maggies, coached the 2010 reserves grand final. Any AFL game I'd take right back right now and play back in another SnFL grand final for sure.
Oh, wow.
So it's the pinnacle of playing in sport. I'd swap it any day of the week.
And like back in like 1990 as well, like young kid, and when that bid came in, like did you sort of understand what was all happening, like what was all about, what was going to happen? Or was it a lot of uncertainty for you?
I had an inkling of it because I stayed at Ian McKenzie's place. So Ian was the footy manager or the general manager of Port Adelaide at that stage. His wife Jenny and my mum were good friends through childhood, and that was the connection for me. So I come back down. I lived in Ceduna for about 5 years, and I come back in 1986 by myself. Got billeted out from Ceduna, so I got billeted out with some people at North Haven. Stayed there, got my first job at North Point Toyota with Robert Hoey as a spare parts driver. So I stayed there for a few months and didn't sort of like the direction where I was going to go with work. So I wanted to try and find something. And lucky enough and I was good at school in art wise and drawing and PE was mostly they were my strong points. But art was really good for me. So a job come up at Jordan Memorials on Port Road as a monumental engraver for headstones. So I took that. I chucked my job in and took that. And I did that for, I could still do it now if I wanted to, but I did that right up until I started playing AFL footy.
Wow.
And from there, I stayed actually. I actually bought a small caravan, and stayed at Ian and Jenny's place at Westlake Shore in their backyard. And so I slept in the caravan for years. Going back to the story of 1990, when I was staying at Ian and Jenny's, they had the likes of Bruce Webber and all that come over. And there was you could tell that there was something going on behind the scenes. All the big board directors and all that sort of stuff were all doing around Ian's place, around Bruce Webber's place, getting things in line, ready to obviously put a bid in to go to the AFL, and obviously unsuccessful at that stage. But yeah, I saw a lot of stuff. A lot of guys obviously walking in, board directors and that sort of stuff, having their meetings and getting everything underway, ready for their tilt for the AFL.
You speak of like 94, 95, 96, winning the 3 in a row. At the end of 96's premiership, was there a different feeling after it, knowing there's an AFL journey coming, or was it still very much an integral part of being a Magpie?
Yeah, no, it was. It was still just a normal Port Adelaide celebration, the whole lot. Didn't really, we were just in the moment at that stage. We all knew the one thing that we all wanted was for the club to continue and on the biggest stage. The pressure of winning flag after flag after flag to keep that bid alive, and they all talk about the '94 grand final for the AFL bosses to come over and hear that roar, and '94 in the last quarter against all odds, where we're down 3/4 time, and for the big bosses of the AFL to come over and see what we did that day, I think convinced them, and they talk about it that that's what you're going to get week in, week out if Port Adelaide get in the AFL. I don't, for actual celebrations and all that sort of stuff, no, nobody really cared. We just wanted to win the game of footy and celebrate it. And whatever happened after that, how many guys got on the list, whatever, nobody really was too worried about that. It was all about the enjoyment of the hard efforts from changing coaches halfway through the year. From Jack stepping aside, getting the coaching role, then Steve coming on, and just keep following and staying on the same path.
And I think, at the end of '96, you had a few AFL offers on the table, didn't you?
So go back for that sort of journey. It was drafted by Essendon in '88, drafted by Brisbane in '93. They wanted to take me. I said no. I wanted to play in the flag first, and then Wolsey come over and they saw the '94 grand final. They delisted me, I think, end of '93. I saw him in '94, and I played my first one. Had the likes of Geelong and Adelaide were keen. And then in 1996, I had Collingwood and Tony Shaw. Really, they come with the contract as well. They wanted to draft me, and they weren't too worried about, Port coming in the year after. But I'm not sure, if that was angled at, draft picks or anything like that. If they got somebody across, they could leverage it to get some draft picks. But back in that day, the draft was, it was a different kettle of fish to what it is today. I think there's something like 130 or 140 people drafted all the time. So you just sat on a list, and if you went over, you went over. You didn't, it didn't matter. And the lists were much bigger. That was where it sort of sat. And then lucky enough to be on the AFL list as the last person to get on the list at the end of the first ever draft for us.
Yeah, the last person on the list and the first person to win the BNF in the inaugural year. That's a pretty cool stat. First to that stat, first to 100 games.
Yes. It was a dream. Like as I said, it was a dream to play AFL footy. Was it a goal at the end? It come across. Like as I said, I could have went any other time. From the year of 1988 onwards, I could have went across. But as I said, I wanted to play in a flag. And then once it happened, and then the club was putting a bid in, well, it was like, well, if they eventually get the license, well, then I'll just stay and I'll back my own ability to get in and get on the list that way. Look, if it didn't happen in 1997, maybe I might have gone across to another club. I don't know. If I got picked up in a draft at that age, but that's in hindsight. So. But I was keen on, just trying to get onto the list, but just keep winning flags, and that's what you want to play footy for.
Yeah. And result aside, what was that first game like against Collingwood? The MCG would have been insane.
We got our asses kicked badly. You talk about sliding door boats. I stood a guy by the name of Lee Walker. He didn't play a lot of games for Collingwood. He was a WA. He was a WA guy. Well, actually, I reckon we were in the Till Cup together as all Australians. Unfortunately for Lee, he did a whole heap of ACLs in his career. He was talented, really good runner. And unfortunately for him, and fortunately for me, because on the day he was like running around like a blue-ass fly. And but he did his ACL in the game. Shit. And he was just running off. It was one of those ones where you sort of like did an ACL and you're like, oh, where'd he go? And next minute, But yeah, that day was, we were so, I would just say, nervous, dehydrated. I think, I cramped up in the third quarter. Just, our first game there in front of, I think it was about 60,000 people. We couldn't score a goal. I think it was 10 goals down to nothing in the first half. And we sort of started to get a little bit, we kicked a couple of goals and that was sort of it. Sort of getting back on the plane was sort of like, I had Jeff Morris behind us. I was with Paco, Steve Paxman and Jeff. And I just turned over to Jeff and I looked at him and said, how in the hell are we going to win a game of footy? We got our asses handed to it, handed to us really good. And, we're just a new club, new guys, all come together to the club. And then sort of how are we actually going to go about it? But slowly over, as I said, we were shell-shocked early. Then we started to get some momentum. I think the second week we played Essendon at home. Mm-hmm. And we actually started to go okay. And we actually started to connect and gel a bit. And we actually showed some signs. And I think it was late in the third quarter, we sort of started to get overrun a bit. And we only lost by, I'm only top of my head, on maybe 3 or 4 goals.
I think it was about that.
And then it sort of gave us some belief that we could actually compete. And we started to get a bit of system about ourselves. And we started trusting the guys we were playing next to and all that sort of stuff. And, it was at round 3 or round 4, we ended up beating Geelong. And then we got on a roll. And it was a really interesting year of footy. So close to, I think when my memory goes back, we lost 4 out of the last 5 or something like that and missed the finals.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, but yeah, we got on a roll, and it was the old Port Adelaide spirit of, Jack was, it was a pretty simple game plan for us back then. It was the same old Port Adelaide style of footy. We were lucky enough to go that way, but it was just, by the end of the year, we were all tired, and it was our first time in the pre-season and first time with different training and different competition and all that sort of stuff. And it just took its toll. I reckon we even had a draw against Brisbane late in the season.
Yeah.
Yep.
If we won that game, we might have got in. And then I think we ended up playing St Kilda on the last home and away game at Footy Park.
Yep.
And we only just lost by about 20 points, I reckon. We just ran out of puff towards the end.
Yeah, against the Saints. Yeah, it was 33 points. Yeah, really close game. I think up.
Yeah, I think it was sort of reasonably close at half time, and then we just sort of, I think we lost our way late in the game. It was a look at the end of the day. A pass mark for our first season. But 4 or 5 weeks out from finals would have been, what's it now? 25 years ago to remember back that far. I can remember what I did yesterday, but it's devastating that we actually didn't make it. But looking back on, as a regional achievement, first up.
The first ever Showdown. How was that for you?
God, like playing in a grand final for sure. The build up, the whole build up of everything goes back to 1990 when that bid come in and obviously the SnFL and knocked it back, and the team went in and the Crows were formed, and rightly or wrongly it's the way it worked, but that rivalry for the first game was hatred. That was real. That was we hate you. And the supporters, everybody hated everybody. And it was just what the state wanted. You couldn't have scripted any better. Perfect day, massive crowd. Just said, I remember the late Bobby Clayton saying, just make sure that, you leave early. You get in trouble, with car parking, getting up, the boulevard. And we did. We struggled to get there on time. We had a report time a couple of hours before the game, and we struggled to get there. I think we're all close on 20 minutes late. We just jam-packed down the boulevard to get in.
Bloody hell.
So, yeah, we were running late for everything. The whole team meeting, the whole lot that day, getting to the game on time. So, yeah, eventually we got there. But the day was, yeah, if you talk a bit of pressure, it's mostly the Crows had more pressure to, if they didn't want to lose for them. They didn't want to lose the first showdown. We're the underdogs. They're the favourites. They've been in the competition for a lot longer. So they had the pressure on them, but to win, and back then it was sort of part-time footy. The first 2 years was part-time footy. It was, we held down jobs, we celebrated, get out in the turfs, and recovery was, the old Port Adelaide recovery was come in on a Sunday morning, run down the car barn, which is the old bus depot, the corner of Port Road and Grand Junction Road, and come back, and that was the same sort of traditions that we carried through. So yeah, the likes of having it was just still semi-professional. So we went out and we celebrated, but it just, that whole pressure, and it still comes today, is that when you have a big game, how do you overcome the stress and the exhaustion from playing a big one to then backing up the week after, and having a letdown? And yes, you see that in the AFL now, of even teams when they travel to Perth. Teams that come back from Perth traditionally lose the week after. So yeah, but we celebrate like that all the time.
Later in the year, you got your first snag at AFL footy against Collingwood. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember. Was that my first one? Was it? Is that what you got there? Yeah.
No, so I got there. I got the old stats lined up. I've got everything sorted.
Yeah. So, I reckon I was running through the middle of the ground, and I reckon I got is either Kingers or Dewey kicked the ball in, and snagged it from 50. I think it went through. I reckon I gave Nathan Eagle a bear hug and almost killed him on the way back to back. Yeah.
Just smacked
that
him
was
around.
The first one.
Oh, that's
first
good.
Of actually so many it wasn't funny.
What, the bear hugs or the goals?
The bear hug. Yeah, no. I think I only kicked. I kicked 6. I reckon. Did I kick? Has he got stats there? 6.
8.
You've got 8.
That must have been the warm up. The other 2.
None in 2002. Actually, it was the only year you didn't kick any.
Yeah. Okay. So, kicked one against the Bulldogs. What else? How many others? Do they count pre-season?
I wish they did. There's no pre-season there. You love the Showdown goal there. It was one of those.
Actually, while we're on pre-season, is your highest achievement winning the Ansett Cup?
In terms of AFL, I've got the VHS.
Yeah, 2001, 2002. The back-to-back.
We got Meady at the back right there.
Yep. Well, the first one was we won the one against Brisbane. We trounced Brisbane when they won the flag. They kicked about. I stood Jonathan Brown.
Oh, jeez.
I reckon he ironed out Fabian Francis Flash in the pre-season game, and we were on the grand final. They only kicked about 3 or 4 goals in that game.
I think so, yeah.
We trounced them by an absolute truckload, and they went on to win the flag. That started their run, and then the following year, actually, I was injured. Leading into the second one. We played Richmond at Marvel. I was actually injured, and I reckon I missed the first. I had a shoulder injury, and I missed the first game against North Melbourne at Adelaide at Footy Park in the first game of the year. So, yeah, so they were good. They were good for the footy trips, because back then we used to get money. And then we used to divvy some of that money back up to the footy trips. So, yeah, that was the incentive. That was the incentive of winning pre-season comps back then. They used to give money, and some of that money obviously went back to the club, and the other money went to we sort of did a bit of a deal with the club that some of that money went to the footy trips on how we actually started our fundraising for our trips.
I like just looking at the photo here. It's like everyone's got their finger up celebrating. Meady, you got the thumbs up going. What's going on here? Just,
Maybe my thumb was bigger than my finger. I don't know. Yeah.
just quickly back in '97, winning that best and fairest, winning the first one. What did that mean to you?
I didn't really care about best and fairest, to tell you the truth. It wasn't something that I went, you plan on winning. I know I had a good year, and I went into my AFL career thinking that if guys can play at this level, and I've played against them in the SnFL level, I wonder how hard it's going to be. And I went in with the mindset of, okay, I'm going to be standing some of the greatest players, that's ever played the game. And that's no, exaggeration. You stand the likes of Carey, Stewie Lowe, Barry Stoneham, Matty Richardson, David Neitz, Swartz, Whitnell, Jonathan Brown. I can go through a whole heap of them. Tony Lockett. So I went in with the attitude of, if I just tag them and just play that style of footy and don't let them go, because back then it was more of a one-on-one type of game before it all starts to be zoning off now, and it's unaccountable for the player you stand. It's more of a back seven, back six that sort of comes into footy. So back then it was just play your man, beat your man, and I thought if the guys I was standing at centre forward, if they're some of the best players in the comp, and if I stop them, I stop the avenue to goal, and hopefully that helps us win games of footy. So, and out of that, I got a best and fairest, and lucky enough to be, and it's a great honour, to be the first one. Not something I went out and planned, but at the end of the day, the voting was a totally different voting system back then to what it is now. So I think back then they used to give a voting system. They had 5 coaches that used to give a rating of, I'm pretty sure it was 4, 3, 2, 1. So the 5 coaches used to vote on everybody. And if you thought you had an outstanding game, you kicked 10 goals and we won by 100 points, whatever, you'd get a rating of 4.
Yep.
If 4 coaches voted 4 and 1 voted 3, you got a rating of 4, and that was how it worked. I think the year that I won, I think I polled something like 22 votes, whereas now they just total them all up and go from there. So I thought, not because I won the first one, but I thought it gave it a really good close contest and an even one.
Yeah.
So if you lost by a vote, or somewhere along the line, you were maybe a half a game short of the person that won, not maybe a game and a half or 2 games or 3 games, that player being better over the season. So I thought it was a pretty good way of doing it. But unfortunately they changed it as the years went on.
It definitely recognises backman a lot better.
It does.
I think. Yeah.
Well, what it does is it recognises a job that the coaches give out to players. Yes. So, you could go along. Let's just say, if you watch a game these days, there's always somebody had to do a job on somebody that we as spectators and people at home don't get to see. And if that's your role for the day and you do it to the best of your ability and you get 10 touches and that guy who normally gets 30 gets 15, you're not going to get too many votes in a best, in awards for Brownlow or anything like that. They'll just go, oh, well, a good day. But, a Brownlow is just a midfielder's vote anyway these days. So to be recognised through the club that way is a much better system. They know what's going on, and that gives you at least a better chance for everybody that's playing the game out there that they know their role, and then they get voted on that role and how they play.
Yeah. And you mentioned some big names before. I've got to ask, you weren't the bloke playing on Plug of the Day, kick 12, were you?
I got it for 20 minutes.
Oh, for 20 minutes. Were they the last 20 minutes, I hope?
Yep.
Oh, good.
It was. No, Steve Paxman, Paco, he got in for the first 12 goals and I got in for the last one. Look, back then it was, back then, we were all sort of set in our ways of how we actually defended it, but back then it was more of a one-on-one type of game where we didn't really have anybody that would sit off in front of Plugger. Dave Armfield was mostly the only one that was designed to do that. And though in uncertain terms, the Plugger had told Dave to get out of the area pretty quick.
Yep.
Before I rearrange your face and I go to the tribunal. So in the story, that's the reason why nobody stood in front of Plugger. He was, I was very quiet bloke, but just an absolute animal on the field. And look, you can sit there and talk to him on the field, but if you got in his way, end of story. Back then, see you later, you're out the door and you're on a stretcher sitting in hospital somewhere, waking up going, who hit me?
He getting absolutely obliterated. Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. Well, who did he? What was the guy that
Peter Caven. Yeah.
There you go. I know Pete, and yeah, he got his face rearranged for him.
Did he ever?
Yep.
I'm thinking of you want Arnie Sanding in the guts there. 1999, played the first final, North Melbourne.
Yep.
What was it like to actually finally get to that day in September? Obviously, again, result bit shit, but to actually play finals would have been a significant achievement.
Yeah, it was a shit day. I still carry. It was going okay until about halfway through the third quarter, and he kicked two within basically a minute on me. So I'd had him not so bad up until then. He ended up kicking six for the game. So he had three to me by halfway through the third, and then I got switched off of him. And then Paco went on him, and he got another three on him. He's had 20. I think he had 22 and kicked six off the top of my head.
Jeez, that's about
that. And we actually got close. We actually got close in the third quarter. I reckon we come back. It's only been a couple of goals down, but at the end of the day, yeah, they were. They had a certain way of playing and how they played through Carey and Corey McKernan and those sorts of blokes. But obviously Carey was the one, and you just didn't want to get him. You just didn't want to get him one on one. It had to come in with some. The ball had to come in with some heat. But he was so good at positioning his body to protect the space, and if you didn't have help, you had to be very good at what you did. And look, we had some great tussles, over my career with him. The only thing disappointing in my career that I never beaten North Melbourne, and all the times that we played, I'd never beaten them. So, but I had some great duels with him. Outstanding player. And just the way he commanded the ball and the way they set, North Melbourne set their game plan up through him was phenomenal to actually be part of.
Maybe we can get you down as a sub in Tassie in a couple of weeks so you can get your win.
In Tassie,
okay,
of all places.
I might just rearrange Jacko's name off.
That's very good. Actually, I will ask: is there a noticeable difference between the SnFL and the AFL final series, would you say?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. You'd have to compare grand finals to grand finals. So, I was there in 2004 when we won in the crowd, and amazing day. And there was only because the MCG was getting rebuilt that year, and we had 70-odd thousand there. Look at the level of athletes back then. The athlete side of things, the fitness side of things, was totally different compared to the SNFL. But what I will say is that one thing the SNFL doesn't lack, and the players that I played with, pre-entering AFL footy, the skills were just as good, if not even better. What you get nowadays is, it's more of a game plan type of thing, and understanding there. One thing I don't like about today's footy is the umpiring and how they don't officiate the rules of holding the ball, and illegal disposal is horrendous these days. The amount of footy that's just getting thrown out of packs It's now a skill in itself to be able to be held one hand and still throw it out and call holding the ball. That was a great handball. You know, the guy's tackle, he's got his hand on his back and the ball's in his other hand. He throws it out and they go, great handball. It's so poor and it's so obvious. But the skill level, I think, back in when I pre-1996, I think that sort of skill level, some of the players I played with, some of the greatest players who are good left and right, you know, and one of those guys, you know, Steve Williams could hit your target left and right anywhere. And then you get to the AFL and blokes like Roger James, you know, would he survive in the AFL these days? He kicks left and right. You know, just because of his size or the way he's built, is he, you know, can he still play at that level? I think that's one thing they lose these days is they lose guys who can't kick on their left when they're in their, and they turn the ball over and they go, yeah, oh, well. But if he actually kicked on his left and actually learned that, maybe the turnover didn't happen. And I think they overlook that a fair bit these days.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. Like, I think a lot of players try to get on their favourite foot and they can get in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, that because they're so worried about turning the ball over. That's one of the biggest problems. But, you know, if you practice and you know, could harness those skills, but because the game's so fast and the players are so fast, they try and get away and get back onto their dominant side, and they obviously don't harness and, you know, practice the skill to actually, you know, use their left foot all the time or their non-dominant side, and maybe that stops turnovers. Who knows? Until you actually try it, you've got to find out. But I've seen many a player these days kick on their, you know, their proper side and turn it over when they should just kick on their left and get away with it.
Yeah.
I was going to mention one game. It's the second to last game. Probably, I still think I was only 7, and it was like probably the best non-showdown home and away game I've ever been to against Brisbane, round 22. I don't think I've ever heard a ground like that. What do you remember from that to secure the minor premiership?
Not the greatest time for me because I was getting ousted as a player at that stage. So
Yeah.
that was right at the end of my last year. So I'd lost. For me, yeah, fantastic, loud crowd. You know, we come back and we win the game to secure it. Yeah, phenomenal day. Still, it was a reasonably warm day, and we secured it, but we obviously didn't go on with the job for a couple of years. The finals are a different story. Like any SnFL grand final, any final series, you just got to take the next level. When you go back and you look at all the tapes and all the vision of all of it, and you look how immature, how small-bodied we were, and then you had to go up another level in finals. We just weren't ready for that, I don't think, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Anybody can say what you want. We didn't have our best team on the park in a couple of our final series. You just can't compete. And they talk about it now, and nobody really wants to talk about it. But if you don't have your best players playing, you tend to struggle. And we'd lost Primus, Franco. I'm not sure if Roger James missed one of the final series or not, but you can't go in with your most dominant big man in the game back then, Matty Primus, and you had Josh Franco, who I regard as one of the greatest clearance players that I've ever played with, and he comes second in a Brownlow to prove it.
Yeah.
You can't go into a final series, and I think Paco was out one year with his ACL. You just can't go into final series at that level with not your best team on the park. And you can only see it right now that teams that aren't at their, they go into a final series, they get run over in the end. Even in normal games these days, teams that look at Sydney right now. Sydney are decimated in there, and look at where they're playing and their position on the ladder. Look at Richmond. Who would have thought Richmond would have been where they are right now? But they're there because they haven't got their key pillars in place. They've got no Lynch, no Nankervis, all that sort of stuff. So, it was a big day, but we just didn't get that job done in our first couple of final series. But that was not due to lack of trying. It was just we just didn't have the right. We weren't quite mentally and physically ready for that.
Yeah. And then obviously 2002 being the last year, and then fast forwarding through becoming a coach and obviously winning the reserves flag. How was that journey into becoming a coach for you, and with the ultimate goal in the end, and alongside Huddo as well?
Yeah. So I finished in 2002. 2003, obviously went back to, didn't know what I wanted to do when I finished playing footy, whether I went back to doing my trade, but I still did that. But I didn't know, I wanted to stay involved in footy somewhere along the line, and I was lucky enough to do some assistant coaching with the Maggies in the A grade for the first year. While Steve was there, and then Steve retired at the end of the year. And I then I applied, a job come up for South Adelaide for their footy manager's role. So, heading up all their football department of their seniors and juniors.
Yep.
Big area, big job. But I took that on for 3 years. Loved every minute of doing that. And then after the first year and a bit, we sort of split the role up because it was just so big. You can't do, I couldn't do that justice, that role of looking after seniors and junior footy. And when you talk junior football, it's very hard to look after country zones and metro zones. So for South Adelaide, it was all of the Great Southern Footy League. It was Kangaroo Island. And then it's all the primary school. So Peter Chapman, years ago, South Adelaide had the biggest primary school. So they had areas. So they had like 64 or something, odd teams in primary school footy. And so you're trying to affiliate and get Peter plenty of help to do that sort of area. And you just couldn't do the league team or the league side any justice of, trying to recruit players in and look after them. And it was, you're doing 70, 80 hours a week. So I did that for 3 years and enjoyed it. Built some good relationships with different areas. Broken Hill was at that stage, was not aligned to anybody. We ended up getting under 13s and 14s competition running from Broken Hill with South Adelaide because we were such a big junior area. And we had our under 13s and 14s used to go across to the Diamond Valley in Melbourne and play teams there of their league. And we, I think for the first time in the time that I was there, for the first time in under 13s, we actually beat the Diamond Valley while I was there. And that was a big credit to the 13s and the 14s. We actually did win a competition. Previously, I'd never really won any of those games. That's how good the Diamond Valley is in Melbourne. And then, after that, in 2007, I went to coach. So then I didn't know what I want to do. I finished South Adelaide. It was just, there's a lot of things going on down at South, and I resigned. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought personal training was the way to go, and I went into that. But along the other side, I ended up coaching Gazer for about 3 years, 2007, 2008, 2009. And that sort of got the coaching bug. I got a little bit of coaching bug at South Adelaide in the junior area, in the under 19s, filling in. But I started to get the coaching bug in 2007, 8, and 9. And then once I left there, I was having a meeting with the Bays for their reserves coaching job, and Bobby Clayton. I'd interviewed for the Maggies coaching job as well. In the reserves, and Bobby was after an answer, and I sort of ummed and ahed, and I was still waiting on another meeting for the Bays, and then eventually I ended up taking the Maggie's job, and lucky enough to be involved with that, and to actually be involved in a senior side and actually coach. Reserves footy's not easy to coach because you get the guys who come back from A grade who get dropped with an attitude that they're disappointed and they just want to be individual. They want to go back out and pick up 30 touches and want to get back in the league team. And that's the hardest thing of reserves footy is to massage the egos and all the feelings of them, thinking that they're better or whatever. But yeah, we're lucky enough in 2010 to, well, it's hate to say it, but this is the last time the club has actually won a senior flag at the club. And we were lucky enough to, get that, how would you say, something I always wanted to do was coach a flag, especially the club I loved and grew up with. And I say this to the day I died. I could have coached the reserves the rest of my life. I couldn't care less. And yeah, things happened in the second year that I got the flick.
Wins a flag, gone the next year. There you go.
Yeah, well, we're sitting on top of the ladder in the second. Yeah, I think about 5 games to go. I got the flick as well. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
and Pito took over.
They didn't win the flag.
What happened
Pito
after
took
that?
over. We'll sit on top of the ladder when I left. We didn't win the flag.
Oh God!
I'm going to tell him that.
You can tell him that one. Ask me how he coached.
You know what Meady said, Pito? Listen.
Guess what, Ant? You're playing at the 2s this week.
I paid my subs. I'm playing 1s. I don't care what anyone says.
But fast forward to now, Meady, like seeing Jackson get drafted. How good was that? And then obviously watching him play as well.
Yeah, look, both of my boys. Mitch is 2 years older, and they introduced this Father-Son Academy a couple of years before Jackson actually got drafted, and Mitch was the first one in the academy, but they weren't sort of showing signs of drafting him. So, and I said to Jacko, I said, all this Father-Son Academy is pretty well basically going to be, starting off around you. I said, I don't think Mitch is going to get drafted, but they're obviously really looking at you. But I think, when you've got kids, and lucky enough I was to have 2 boys, and, they're between, them growing up and kicking footies backwards and forwards and practicing and, being out there trying to teach them and all that sort of stuff. Jacko will say that, one of his biggest helping, through his junior footy career would be his bigger brother to, play footy with, but to go out and kick balls with, and they do everything together. They're best of mates. But yeah, for that day that we all shared, to actually get to a level to actually be drafted in the first place, is a very, very small, percentage of players get picked up. We were lucky enough to be drafted to Port Adelaide. We weren't really, we were very open on where he wanted to go. We had Hawthorn meet with us first before anybody. Jeff Morris, again, connections in footy. Jeff Morris and Mark McKenzie, they come round to our house in early January of that year. So they were like 10 months before anybody.
Wow.
They wanted to come in and they wanted to do a background on him and what would your thoughts on be? Would you want to come to Melbourne? All that sort of stuff. So they did their homework on him early. Fremantle then popped in. And Wolsey's brother, David Walls, he's still at Fremantle now. They were really keen. As much as Hawthorn were keen, then Freo were another, 1 or 2 points above anybody to bring him over. And what was your thoughts? And then there was Jacko's manager's Peter Rode, who used to be the footy manager of Port Adelaide. They were reasonably keen to take him in the first round. He was obviously father-son, but they were keen to almost take him in the first round. They had about 3 picks. I reckon they picked Caleb Sarong and Youngie that year. And Jacko was another one they were looking at. But then once we obviously, Port coming out of their chat and all that sort of stuff, and they put their vision on where they thought they were going to be. And I think at the end of the day, the defining moment was a 3-year deal versus 2. Father sons get 3. If you go into state, you get 2. He still stayed home as much as he wanted to. He's capable to go into state by himself and all that sort of stuff. I think the stay home factor, play at the club that he supported, all that sort of stuff. So he ended up nominating the club. They come round on draft night, did some video footage, all that sort of stuff. And I still remember, Daniel Norton coming in and having the 4 guys that they wanted to get drafted. So when they talk about the draft, they say, we got the players they wanted. We had 4 picks in the first round and a bit, and they drafted every player that they wanted.
There you go.
So they actually got the draft right for them. Look, massive moment, and glad it all happened. But AFL footy is a totally different beast. Totally different beast on for parents and all that sort of stuff. It might have been easier for us as parents for him to go into state, so you don't have to worry about, you're not living in your pocket with him all the time.
Yeah.
But we had some, when you got drafted, then COVID hit, and COVID just changed the way, teams played, and they weren't ready for it. Moving into state, they were playing mixed teams and teams that didn't play. I think Jacko played his first game against, with Fremantle players. They were playing Richmond in a trial, so they were mixing, and it was all asked about. But they just had to get games in the blokes to play, and you come back and they spent about 3 weeks up on the Gold Coast, and then some of the teams stayed there, and obviously the South Australian ones come home because of border control and all that sort of stuff. And then they played the Crows in umpteen trials, and you had to lend players to each other's teams, and so his first couple of years of footy was really bizarre, to say the least. But the day that when he got injured and he split his spleen down the bay, down at Noarlunga, was the most. We've had two big nights with him in hospital, but that was the biggest and the most scariest that I've ever been as a parent. And the Ollie Lord come back with a ruptured kidney. It's Dusty Martin had it, and look at him right now. It took him a year to get back and play it at a really, really good level. But Jacko, it was just such a brutal first 3 years. In that period of time, he did 9 hamstrings as well, all on the same leg.
Jesus.
So after doing 9 hamstrings and splitting his spleen, to eventually come and debut was obviously a relief for him, but a relief for everybody. And then you just, I don't think we've actually quite grasped him playing AFL yet. That's him out there. It's a weird feeling, if you know what I mean. It's hard to describe. That's my son out there playing. It's like it's not quite real yet. He just now needs to be able to get in and cement his spot. But it's a great buzz. But as I say, it's not quite real. Doesn't quite feel real because he's not playing all the time. He's still back with the SnFL and all that sort of stuff. And I think once he can show his true worth on spots he can play, and if he gets his chance and he cements it, well, then I think it will start to become a bit real. And then I think once he gets to move out of home as well, and this day and age, you can keep them at home wherever you want. You want to get your kids, as far as you can in life before they actually get out in the big world, and make sure they're financially viable for all that sort of stuff. And I think by the end of this year or sometime next year, he'll obviously buy a house and start his own life. And then that'll change a little bit with the dynamics of him coming home and how is your day, or he has to go home now to somebody else to talk about it, as much as he doesn't like talking about it half the time when he comes home. But I know as a footballer myself, sometimes when you play well, you need to voice your frustrations, and then sometimes when you play bad or vice versa, you still want to, how did I go? How did I not go? What can I do? But there are days where you don't want to talk, and even to the extent of yesterday when they played at Loxton, he was tired. He come home and he kicked a couple of goals. He played on the wing because obviously Dersmer is out now for 8 to 10 weeks. So they looked at him on the wing in a trial. Oh, sorry, in the game against Westies for the whole game. They didn't put him in the middle. But it's a totally different ball game, SnFL footy to AFL. Doesn't switch it quick enough, but he ended up kicking a couple of goals. But he'd been away he'd been away at home since Thursday. So people go, oh well, he's went to Loxton. No, he actually went to Melbourne as an emergency because there was 2 guys that were in doubt. So him and Lockie Jones went over. So they went over Thursday. Did a little captain's run Thursday, went to Melbourne, sat around Melbourne all, Friday waiting. Am I going to play? I'm going to play. No, you're not playing. Let's go to the game. The routine of, being out, eating, food and different beds, home, come home first thing Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. They were going to go up on a bus. Saturday afternoon, he said, no, I can't. I'm too tired. I need to get a decent sleep. And then, again, first thing up Sunday morning, 8 o'clock, him and Lockie Jones and Shane Grimm drive up to Loxton, 3-hour drive. You get out of there, you sit in the car all morning.
Yeah.
You get to the game, you play. And by the time he got home last night at 9:30, he was cooked. But he was cooked from 4 days of being on different beds on the road, different food. And football players like routine. We all like routine. You want to stay in that routine, but when that routine changes, and especially like it did on the weekend, by the time you got home, oh, how'd you go? Yeah, what do you reckon? Nah, shut up, Dad. I don't want to hear it. I just want to go to bed. So sometimes you got to take it with a grain of salt and just say, okay, and leave them be. And then other times, you got to, listen to what they got to say and they want some help and they take that as well. But most of the time he's pretty good. He comes home and he just either goes to his room or he'll sit and just be normal. Yeah. We'll have a little chat at the start and how you went and what your thoughts were and move on.
He played quite well yesterday. I made the trip up. I do the SnFL match reports for the club.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't blame you for being knackered on the way home. I tell you what, it's a hell of a day.
It was one of those days where, like, he's ended up with 14, kicked 2 goals. He should have kicked 3. He missed a set shot that he normally would have kicked. And then right at the end of the game, I'm sitting there and we're both watching, Jules and I, and then he had a mark in the goal square about 30 seconds to go. And he got the ball spoiled out of his hands. And we're like, you should have marked that. And he comes home and he goes, no, I actually marked it, but the umpiring, he said the guy just ripped my hands and punched my arms out and the ball fell out. And he would have had another shot right in the goal square. So realistically, he had 4 chances. You kick 2 goal 1. Sometimes you get an umpiring decision, you go your way, sometimes you don't. But for the first time to actually play on the wing, so it's totally different when you play in the midfield all the time and his rotation is midfield to the bench, to then play to the wing and not go in the midfield, and then you're relying on others to come out and play that same role. So, it does get it's a good learning curve for him, and who knows where it leads to this week. If his game was good enough to get a call up to the AFL, that's obviously what they were looking at. For him to play on the wing all the time, just to see how he went. And look, it was serviceable. He did his job. He kicked a couple of goals. The first time he's ever kicked 2 goals in a game, for the Maggies. So he's having shots on goal this year, which has been totally different to what he's had over the last couple of years. He just needs a crack at it. He needs a good crack at it. But you can't just sort of come in and have one game and then go out again. It just doesn't do anybody any good. If they're gonna play him in a role, he's got to be serviceable. He's got to do his job, but you've got to see growth in it, and hopefully he gets a chance over the next couple of weeks somewhere along the line.
100%. No, couldn't agree more.
Hello, should we get in the random port merch?
I think so. Yep.
Let's do it. This is where we do random port merch media. This is where we talk about the most random port merch you would have around the block, and I'll start with Huddo firstly. What have you got for us, Huddo?
Well,
I got to remember it first.
So obviously we had the Ansett Cup VHS, which I think we had on the last episode. So that's in the past. So Ant went digging through that giant box of random stuff that I showed you when you came around before we went to Melbourne, and
Yep.
I got gifted this thing when I was a kid, and I had it for since I was probably about 6. So it's about 21, 22 years now. It is a Port Adelaide duck.
Well, and what game is this? This is not a football game.
No, just reminds me of the 2017 elimination final, but talk less about that. But yeah, so Port Adelaide duck. So yeah, that's
That is random.
my random Port merch for this weekend.
Meaty, have you got any special Port merch lying around? I think you've got tons on the wall.
I can sort of, if you can see, that's if you can see in the background there, that's 100 game jumper.
Yep.
Some other stuff. Oh, one behind me is the power of the 10. That one there, that's Jacko's one of his state jumpers. Most of my stuff is upstairs. All my Maggie's premiership jumpers are all upstairs. They're in a massive, I got 3 big frames up there that, they've got all my medals and all the photos from the grand final and stuff like that. And so they'll stay there until the day I die. Nobody will pay for it.
It's nice to have some random Port merch that isn't in a random plastic bag for a change, Ant.
Yes,
Meaty's got his proudly presented.
I did. I spent a bit of dough on them. They were about $700 each, the frames, to get them all done, and they're about 5 foot by 4 foot. They're pretty big, so
far out.
That's
they take up the whole wall space. So when I build a house, I've got to build around the frames of the jumpers I got.
I was going to say they're not going to fit in the caravan, are they?
No, they're not. I don't ever see blokes like ABBA or Port Northeast playing in 7 or 8 of them. If I'm building a house, they'd be hanging up everywhere.
A long hallway.
Yes,
just
very
here's
long.
my hallway of fame.
Yeah, that's
you
it.
Come in. Oh, what have you got, Ant? And I can see my old frame that I gave you in the background.
Yeah, no, that's the 04 team in the background hanging up there. No, I was looking and I was really struggling because everything's in a box, just like yours. But I found a random ticket that I went to. It's the 2015 game against Essendon. We played at what was then called Etihad Stadium.
And the game where Ryder kicked the bag goals.
Ryder kicked. That was his first year for the club. He kicked a few snags at Etihad. So it was my first away trip game.
First away trip solo. Going to see Port at Marvel. We did. We won by 20 points. What year was that? 2015.
Yep, 2015.
There you go.
Weird year.
Certainly beats my first away trip, so that's good.
Yes, well, considering what we had recently this year as an away trip, I don't want to talk about it.
No, same venue.
No, we don't want to talk about it. Yes. Let's do Big Brother, Huddo.
Yes, Big Brother.
This is Big Brother.
Big Brother, this is where we talk about some footy trips and some fun stuff that happened, Media, across your time with the boys at the footy club. So have you got anyone you want to stitch up?
Oh.
That's always good. That is always good.
I could I could say Damien Harbour could be one. He would be.
Here we go.
No, nothing like going back years ago. We actually made might have been way before your time. We made it was called The Panel on Channel 10. It was a show. Might have been way before your time.
Remember that?
Yeah, so we had all the greatest guys in network on Channel 10 had a show called The Panel. And we actually made their list of AFL footy trips.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
All the other 17 teams, we used to go overseas. And we decided to have a rebel tour for the married guys who had kids and that sort of stuff, couldn't go overseas for a couple of weeks. And everybody else was going overseas, and then it had Port Adelaide and it had Berry.
going to the Riverland, boys. Jesus.
Very. But we first started it years before that. We actually went to Port Lincoln. There was about, there were about 7 or 8 of us. Josh Franco, Roger James, Chris Naish, Brendan Lade. We actually ended up going, and it was after, might have been the first or the second year after the best and fairest. I can't remember, but we're actually leaving the next morning. And we had Danny Morton going and somebody else going, but they pulled out at the last minute. And back then, you used to be able to travel and use somebody else's name and all that sort of stuff. So we ended up getting Josh Franco's best mate, Paul Barr. And if you saw, and we put Paul Barr as Danny Morton. and Danny was like 60 kilos wringing wet. And Barry was double the size. So we'd had an absolute corker of a night. And so we had to fill 2 seats. I think Nigel Feakle was one, but so we filled Danny Morton with Paul Barr, and I reckon we were flying over on Rex Airlines, and we'd had a big night, and Dewey was green as grass. And we had a bit of turbulence going in, and they had the old brown paper bag wobble by the end of it. He was chucking his guts up. But, cut a long story short, when we won money in the Ansett Cup, we got some money given to us, and I was in charge of that money. So we had a daily allowance of how much we could give to a player, and away we went. And we had a big night the first night, and we gave our players out their money and said, don't blow it too early, don't want you coming back. But a couple did, and one of them was Damien Hardwick, and Dimmer had actually come back, and I reckon Nick Stevens was another one. But we gave a daily allowance out, and what happened was we didn't you just didn't follow Blake. Where's he gone? 3 hours later, he rocks up somewhere along the line. And we were just downstairs having a drink early in the morning, just like way early in the morning, like, 9, 10 o'clock. Ooh. And he disappeared for a while. And I gave him his money, and he just disappeared. And then we thought, we better go check on him, see where he is. And we went up into his room, and the bed's made. And we're like, oh no! Oh, he's done a runner. He's ranked off. He'd actually booked one night. He actually rearranged his own ticket to go back to Adelaide.
He dogged the boys. Oh, damn it, no!
The boys and took the money and ran.
He took the money and ran. He dogged it. Where are you? He was back at Adelaide Airport by the time we got hold of him.
Oh, no.
He spent one night with the boys.
That is
he got back home. He'd organised his own ticket.
That's up there.
That's good.
That's top 3.
We were actually applauding it because it was so good.
That is very funny. Good.
Yeah, very good. 3 hours, like we upstairs, go into the ring, because we were staying at the what's the hotel in Port Lincoln? I've got to think of the name, but off the top of my head, it's the main one in Port Lincoln. But yeah, you go up there, knock on the door, open up the door, bed's made. Oh. Get on the dog and bone to him. Hey, where are you? Back at Adelaide Airport. What are you doing? I'll rearrange. I couldn't stay.
One night only special event.
The BG himself. Barry Hardwick.
Barry Hardwick. Wow. Just absolutely just waltzed out, ghosted, and then that's
very much ghosted. And it was applauded too because it was quite good. But
that is very good.
No, we took everybody over, and to tell you the truth, the tour got bigger than the one that went overseas. The Rebel tour got bigger and bigger. So we spent the first 2 or 3 years going to Port Lincoln, and we decided that we thought we want to change the venue, and that's how we went to Berry, and that's how we got on the show, the panel. But we went to Berry. The one we went to Berry, we got 2 cars from Robert Hoey at North Point Toyota. who could transport 7 or 8 of us.
Yeah.
And we had about 16, I reckon, that went up.
Oh, jeez.
And we stayed at the Berry Country Club. And, so cut long story short, we had a couple of guys come up late the next day. But we ended up playing golf and all that sort of stuff. We had a couple of golf carts. That was one of the, the stupidest things they could have done was let us have a golf cart for the night.
For the night.
For the night. To cut a long story short, a couple of tables and chairs got run over. We ended up taking, I think Josh Carr come up with a couple others, and we actually decided to, before he got there, we decided to go. We went to Renmark. We went to the hotel in Renmark.
Oh yes, the Renmark
So
Hotel.
we're on the juice, and on the way home, we decided to drive, and whether we could have or not, I'm not sure. But Roger James, who was actually driving one of the buses, and about 200 metres up on the left-hand side, like out of nowhere, there's a roo.
Oh no!
So if you know Renmark or anything like that, it was pretty well opposite the race car track out there, the dirt track. So
Oh god!
we tried to see if the van of 8 could do some good donuts around the dirt track. As a speedway out at Renmark. So this is all before anything could be done. So there was 8 of us. We were all egging Rog on to do donuts and wheelies and all that sort of stuff out where the dirt track is for the race car track at Renmark. But we ended up cutting a long story short. We got back into Berry. I reckon Kari. I reckon it was Peter Burgoyne got up there late as well, and it was about 12. And for some reason, I reckon Kari was driving with no pants on, just had his jocks on. Don't know how it happened, but we venture into Berry, and next minute the old lights come on, flashing, pull over.
Oh no!
We heard you were in town. And there was a few that were a bit tanked at the back, and the coppers pulled him over, had the light, shined in a pair of jocks, driving, and said, "Oh, we heard you guys were in town. I think it's wise you go back to where you're staying and get back as quick as you can." So, yeah.
They looked after you.
Yeah, they did. They looked after us very well. We couldn't find anywhere to drink that night. We tried all the Berry. The Berry RSL wasn't the one. We rocked into the Berry RSL. It was Monty, it was Matty, Chad Corns, myself. There was a few others, and it was like, this is an RSL. We're like, yeah. We just wanted to get a drink and just do something, but nothing was open. So Berry is sort of shut, and that's the reason why we ended up going to Renmark. But it was quite an interesting trip of going away to just a suburban, country town of South Australia. And I think the other guys who had been on the trip for like Matty Primus and Monty and Chad and all that had never been to Port Lincoln. So we brought the Port Lincoln to Berry for a trip, and we had an absolute corker of a time.
I reckon that may be the best Big Brother segment we've had, Ed. That was unreal.
That's 10 out of 10. That's
the second good one we've had with Josh Carr involved as well.
Well, I could tell you that we were sitting. They all talk about Chad and Kane and all that sort of stuff, and Kane was one of the biggest pissheads going around.
Oh yes.
We sat in the Renmark Hotel, and they were well known. The two Corns boys were Skull and Jugs.
Oh no!
Yeah. So we ended up sitting in the Renmark Hotel. We were playing a bit of music on the jukebox was right next to the bar, and there was this old guy who was sitting in there, and the story goes that we were putting money into the jukebox, just having a good time, and Chad and Kane was sculling jugs of beer and going to the toilet, and then sort of half ralphing back up again and coming back out. And this old guy had been, obviously, whether he'd been to the war or not, we ended up putting cold chiseled Kaysan on, and we started singing. And this guy's coming out, you would know nothing about the war. And
no.
And you had Chad and Kane, Skull and Jugs, sitting on top of the jukebox. It was hilarious. Yeah. And then obviously we drove back to the Speedway on the way back to Berry. But yeah, we were sitting in the middle of the Redmark Hotel, sitting on top of jukeboxes, Skull and Jugs of beer. Chad and Kane, you wouldn't have thought Chad, or you especially wouldn't have thought Kane would be doing it, but yeah, Kane he was one of the guys who'd like to have a drink.
God, that's good. That's good.
That's by far the best thing we've ever had on this show.
We're
20 episodes in, and that is the best thing we've ever heard.
Oh, it's sensational.
Maybe that is unbelievable.
I can tell you another one.
Oh, go on, please. Yes.
The floor's yours.
if you ever get Roger James, back on, I think it was the first time that we went to. I think it was the first or second time we went to Port Lincoln, and we were sitting in front in the hotel in the front bar, the Tasman Hotel, and they had the regulars. There was a regular guy there come in every day. And he used to have a little a butcher of port every time. First thing in the morning, bang, 9, 10 o'clock, he was there. And they had another regular, this guy, he had a little moped, and he had a dog. And his dog was called Tripod because he only had 3 legs.
Oh, my.
But and he used to rock into the hotel all the time as well. But he parked his moped out the front.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But like about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've had a skinful ourselves, and Roger James has gone to the guy with the dog, and he's gone, you mind if I take your little moped for a drive? So if you know the Tasman Hotel, it's on the foreshore, but it's in a T-junction.
Oh,
okay. So it's on the foreshore and a T-junction. So Roger's got it on the moped. First of all, and across the road from the Tasman Hotel is a Shell servo. So he's pulled the moped into the servo to fill up fuel. So he's got cars behind lined up to go into the servo. We know he knows, but he's just making out. And the person that was on the two-way inside the servo's gone, excuse me, mate, just move on.
Oh.
So Roger's got on the thing, revved it up a little bit, and decided to go into the T-junction doing donuts. So he's doing circles out the middle of the T-junction, holding up traffic. And we've got everybody in the pub all standing up and out the front just clapping him. He come back and parked it. We were cacking ourselves. One of the greatest things you've ever seen on a trip. It was for the actual T-junction in Port Lincoln. And no shit, we had so many people out the front all clapping him. It was an absolute hilarious moment of harmless fun that you've ever seen. It was an absolute corker.
Oh, my God. What is it with drunk people who see a moped and go, that's just like lasers, like, yes.
But actually asked the guy, could I take him for a spin with his dog there? And the whole line is just even better.
Oh, that is so good.
Yeah. Oh, that's world class. That's
made me cry. I've got some tears.
I could give you the Brett Chalmers, Tom Carr, Braveheart.
Oh, yes.
I could give you the Braveheart episode late at night.
Oh my God!
We'd be playing and drinking and betting and all that sort of stuff. And Tom Carr, at the end of the night, decided to get the we were playing a bit of 8-ball as well, but the pool cue chalk, the blue stuff. And if you watch Braveheart,
no,
he's playing with his face. He's actually put the blue chalk on his face. and he's lined the texter up as well. And they videoed it. It was an absolute classic.
Oh,
Yeah, he's come out and done a Braveheart skit in the middle of the night.
oh my God. Paul Chalk.
So you have to go back and watch Mel Gibson in Braveheart to have a look at his face and then picture that on Tom Carr.
I'm never watching that. Not watching that movie again the same.
I'm going to see Tom Carr in Braveheart.
But he had actually had texter. He actually had a line down the middle of his face with the black texter, and part of his face was in blue.
Oh, I don't know how drunk you have to be to actually think about doing that. That's the best.
Not much.
Not much.
Just see that.
It was just like footy trips. Like for that one, was just like what could you do in a town that was harmless fun? We remember playing Chase the Ace. We bought a packet of cards on normal size packet of cards this big, but they were like this big. And we're just playing Chase the Ace and sticking to our foreheads. Bit of Indian poker.
Oh my God!
Indian poker. You put the card in your head. You had to bet on it and all that sort of stuff. But the way, it was just we had a great bunch of guys that we did it for years and years and years without going overseas. And then I think we did 4 or 5 trips in my time. I think it was maybe about 4. I think we did 5 because I finished in Port Lincoln. On my last trip, we had some of the, going fishing and seeing Blake's fish and it was hilarious. But there was the times in the Tasman Hotel. That's how. I'll tell you another story. Josh Franco. Our first year we went over. I had mates over there that had tuna farms and all that sort of stuff. And one of the guys' names, Buddha Woods, he had an animal farm.
Oh.
And
no,
so he'd taken us. I'd been out in the tuna farms with us, and he ended up taking us up to his animal farm, like a zoo, and we had an afternoon up there on a drink and all that sort of stuff. And in the paddock, he actually had a bull.
Oh,
shit. No.
Oh shit!
Yeah. And a guy that I worked with, he came over on the trip, Alan Burt, and we're all out there. And the bet was, if you went out and patted the bull, we're going to go buy the dog.
So
there was a dog, a healer, that was for sale. Buddha had a dog up there. I think it was a red healer for sale, and but he had to go out and pat the bull.
Oh my God!
Oh no!
So this thing was massive. He's out in the paddock, and Albie's gone out there, and he ended up like this ball was massive. He ended up patting the ball and then running back. But cut a long story short, ended up getting the dog and ended up calling it a zapper. So and Josh Franco's nickname was Zapper at that stage. So that's how we walked away from a footy trip with a dog to come back home with.
Oh my God!
And Zapper lasted about 15 years, I think.
That's sensational.
Yeah, but named after Josh Franco, who made Alan Albie have a bet to go out and pat the ball. If you pat the ball, you get a dog, and you get to call it Zapper.
Oh,
that's how it works.
That's sensational.
That's terrific.
That's one of the we walked home with a dog on our footy trip.
That's funny. That is so good. Oh my God. I don't want to change topic, but we have to. Obscure Port player.
We got the questions first, Dan. We got quick
we're
fire
gonna do
questions.
this. We're gonna do the questions. All right, Meady, we're gonna do some quick fire
You've
questions.
lost the plot, Ed.
I need a moped. I need something.
Might take a while. You got 3 legs.
Yeah. Not going to answer that question. I'm going to ask the questions, Meady. All right. What's your favorite TV show?
Seinfeld.
Love that.
Good choice.
Karaoke. What's your go-to karaoke song?
I'm a Midnight Oil fan, so anything Midnight Oil.
Yep.
Your favorite flavor of potato chip?
Chicken.
Ooh, I like
Ooh.
that. If you were to pick a Mario Kart character, what would you pick?
No idea. Don't would even know.
That's
Love
fair.
it. And lastly, the most important question of the quickfire questions, the one you'll probably be most ridiculed for. What's your favourite shapes flavour?
Barbecue.
Oh,
Come on.
fuck's sake. Yeah.
Backmen stick together. Huddo.
I thought I was good with the chicken potato chips. I'm on it. I'm on.
No. Barbecue is the popular.
Oh, by far.
Oh,
Huddo's a crimpy man.
Chicken crimpy, yeah. Not as good as barbecue shapes.
Thank you.
shit.
Nowhere near it.
This is going the end of season collage again.
Yeah. Nowhere near it.
It's like chicken and cheese twisties. Which one's the best?
Ooh, chicken twisties, easy.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, now we should do obscure port player.
Yeah, we should.
All right. Meaty, do you want to kick us off? Obscure port player that played less than 100 games.
Jared Cotton.
Oh, yes.
There you go. Nailed it straight away.
That's how many games did he play?
I don't know, he got cut in the first year.
I think
Got cut in the first year at the best and fairest.
At the best and fairest.
At the best and fairest.
Oh, what?
At the backstage of the best and fairest got cut.
Oh, it's like, thanks for coming, mate. You're gone.
Very much so. That's how it worked.
Oh,
Wow. That's extreme.
that's brutal.
Meaty's just on stage getting his medal. Cotto's getting sacked at the back. Huddo, what's
Who else?
yours?
Yeah, I'll go with one that was in 1997, played one game. I'll go Mark Conway.
Oh, yeah, Connors.
Mark
There you go.
Conway.
Won
Interesting.
a sample flag with Sturt.
Yeah.
Love that.
How many more do you want?
I've got Paul Geister.
Yeah.
Yeah, one game, 1997.
Yeah.
And you were so lucky because he was my other one that was going to go. I had him and Conway.
Well, I would have gone Jared Cotton, but now that he got the sack, I think I can't deal with that.
Oh, get sacked at the BNF.
Michael Stevens.
Yes.
Michael Stevens. There was another one as well I had. I can't remember the name now. It was another, didn't even play a game and was on the list for one season in 97.
Jonathan Newbury.
Yeah, that's the one.
Jonathan Newbury. Oh, good Lord.
Jeez.
That's a
Oh,
How about oh God, I'm gonna think now. I'll have to have a look at it. No, can't think at the moment. Johnny Rombotis.
Yeah, that's another good one.
we haven't had him actually.
Haven't
That's a
we?
good one.
I thought
No,
we
we
did.
haven't. No. I'm going to
Okay.
write them down too. We've had a lot, but we've got to write them down.
We've had a few repeats, but get that.
Ian Downsborough.
And yes, went across the Crows.
Yep.
We tried to pick one for him.
Really?
Something like that.
Yeah, we tried to pick one. Michael Gardner.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
whatever how it worked back then. But now, Meaty, the last.
You go, Huddo.
Sorry, Ant. The last question we've been asking guests this year, and because you were at Port Adelaide, 2010, obviously coaching the Rezzies, we're trying to find out who ran the Interesting Matthew Lobe Facebook page. And you have no idea?
No.
All right, there we go. We're no closer, Ant, to finding that out. And
No.
another late question that I did bring in last year, which I haven't brought back in this year. Meaty, you hear about who was the hardest player you ever played on? Who was the easiest player you ever played on?
Who did I get 3 votes in a Brownlow against?
Happened a couple of times, I think.
Yeah, I think I polled 9.
Yeah, a
Polled
few
9.
BOGs.
Yeah, I got 9. I got 3 in 3 years. I got one. I got the 3 in the first showdown against Smarty.
Yep.
I think I polled 3 against Nick Holland against Hawthorn. And I got a funny feeling I was against Richmond, might have been the other three, against Matty Richardson. I reckon it might have been something like that. Collingwood, was it?
1998.
Did I kick my goal that game?
Did I kick my goal that game? They had 19 touches. Not too bad.
Might have been that game, actually.
3 Brownlow votes. Who the hell were you playing on that day? Bucks had 39. No one was playing on him. Bloody hell.
It's what $20 does to the umpires.
They might have been playing on one of the Rocker boys.
Yeah, it might have been Anthony Rocker. I don't know.
There you go.
Well, they vote it these days. Who cares?
They never recognise defenders.
No.
Well, it's just a midfield award that, it should be, right now it should be guys that get suspended as well. So if you're good enough to be suspended for 5 games, throughout the year and you still win a Brownlow, good luck to you, because what they're getting suspended for these days, go back 25 years, you never get suspended, but you tackle somebody wrong and their head accidentally, Tom Jonas is a classic example a couple of weeks ago against West Coast. There was nothing malice in it whatsoever. And he gets a 1-game suspension and he's ruled out of the Brownlow. So, I think the times have changed that you get suspended, you can still win it. Unless you're a dead set thug and, you go out and punch somebody and break their jaw, that's a totally different thing. But I think for ones where you're hip and shouldering or something like that, they're very innocuous and, they're not meaning to knock you out. And half the time it's a secondary, head collision. You get a good bump, you get a good bump on the shoulder, but because the head hits the shoulder of your forceful, and it knocks them out, it's very unfortunate. How do you get away with it? How do you get around it? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough these days with footy, and you can understand why players these days, get a bit apprehensive in whether tackling or bumping and going in for the footy, because they've got that thought in the back of their brain, which is what you don't want to have on a footy field. You don't have second thoughts. So, but I think this day and age now they can. Phone's getting a bit low, but then this day and age I think they can go to the next level and have suspended players win a Brownlow.
Yep,
definitely. 3 votes in a year might have been enough to win it. Maybe if everyone was getting suspended, might have snagged a Brownlow. Right.
Still waiting for my Showdown medal.
Yes, actually. Yeah. Did you get one of those retrospective ones that they did, or whatever?
No, they haven't done anything for the first 5 Showdowns yet.
That's
so. I mean, if you're going to go by it, you might as well go back by the Brownlow and, award it just to give everybody a medal, and put it for the record books. But I won't be holding my breath.
There you go.
Any final thoughts, Huddo?
Not really. Meady, thank you so much for joining us, mate. And,
it's been fun, guys.
I appreciate it. And the stories are absolutely sensational. But thanks for showing Ant a thing or two about football, because I think he needed it, and clearly worked for him. A couple of BOGs, so he's very happy with himself. And a happy Ant means a happy Huddo.
Yeah, that's good. No, it's always a joy. It's always good fun. No matter what club it is, you meet some guys that, they love playing. You're playing when you're growing up and all that sort of stuff. And if you can pass on something, whether it's to Pito when Pito passes on, or it's good to just have a different voice, and just help, meet new blokes, and hopefully something that, you learn out of the night that you actually, if you go on and coach yourself, and, you can apply that sort of thing. That's what footy's about. And if you can share knowledge, all good and well.
He did very well that night. I know a lot of people learned a few things, and Pito's definitely taking full credit for it. So I think.
Well, when he gets a sack in a few more weeks' time, he might have to call me out.
Oh, I'm so showing him that.
Love you, Pito. You're doing a great job, mate.
Oh, Meady, thank you so much, mate. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Pears on a Pod.
No worries, guys. Thanks. See ya.
Cheers.